Hello, everyone. The 2025 RLCS season has concluded with the World's Championship. However, we already have some exciting information about the 2026 season from Blast here. So let's go ahead and read this article together and have a conversation about what, things are exciting to us and what changes are coming for next year. So number one, they mention the 3v3 format is still the primary competition. That makes sense. Obviously, we've seen some announcements about a new 4v4 mode, but it doesn't look like that's being integrated into RLCS yet. That's just a Rocket League thing, or a Rocket League ranked thing. Each region will once again compete across 3 online opens per split, 6 total, with a major LAN at the end of each split. So it's the same format, right? Open 1, 2, 3, then a major, that's a LAN competition. Open 4, 5, 6, then a major, that's a LAN competition. The season will then culminate at the RLCS 2026 World Championship. Additionally, RLCS 1v1s and last chance qualifiers for the World Championship will return as part of the competitive circuit. Now for the big news. So, they say now for the big news, but I think it's kind of, good to know that 1v1s, we're still going to be doing that next year. And I think that's a good way to, show a different mode and bring in some talent that's not in the RLCS, like Moxie, for example. Changes to roster eligibility. Obviously, this is the big one. All rosters must now field a majority of players who are residents or citizens of the region they are competing in. For standard 3-player rosters, this means at least 2 players must meet these regional eligibility requirements through citizenship or permanent legal residency. You need to live or have a passport for the region that you're going to play in, which is going to shake some teams up. Teams that choose to register a substitute or 4-player roster must ensure that at least 3 of the 4 players meet the new eligibility requirements. So you can't have 2, region players and then 2 subs that are from different regions. Still needs to be majority. 3 out of 4 need to be living in that region or have a passport or permanent legal residency. These changes are designed to keep regional competition fair and balanced while still allowing international talent to shine. A full breakdown of which countries fall underneath each RLCS region, along with the exact eligibility rules, will be available in the official RLCS rulebook. So I think the main thing is, obviously, SSA is affected. That team was a 3 Spanish citizens, and there was even a Spanish org that were competing in the sub-Saharan Africa region. Foot Esports, so those guys are going to have to figure something out. So either Foot's going to move them to EU, those guys are going to officially become dual citizens or citizens of South Africa or another country that qualifies in the sub-Saharan Africa range. Perhaps, maybe there's a country that's easier to get citizenship in than South Africa. I have no idea. Or Foot is going to stay in SSA, but they're going to dump their EU player rosters of those 3 imports and pick up a team like Limitless or one of the rosters that's got South African players, or sub-Saharan African players, I should say. It doesn't technically have to be South Africa. So, and maybe if it would be interesting, we can look at what countries fall into each RLCS region, but I think this is pretty straightforward about it. And in my opinion, this is a great change. APAC is also affected, let me say. Virtus Pro had a NA import and a EU import, and then Sphinx was the APAC regional player. So they're going to have to trade one of those players out for a non-import, which would be kind of an interesting way. It'd be interesting to see what comes from APAC here. So this is mainly a change to protect these smaller regions, and I think most people would say it's long overdue, and this is healthy. Hopefully, the other piece of this is that when they announce how many teams are going to be at these LANs, they give more spots to EU specifically, just because EU is typically where we've seen the most imports go from EU to other global areas around the world. So EU clearly has the deepest talent pool of RLCS players, and that's those bubble players are usually the ones that go and dominate these smaller markets. So hopefully they can also add some spaces for EU, so that way EU doesn't just become this cutthroat region, and then that will discourage people from wanting to compete and play, because if you're not on a top 4 roster, you're not going to get to play on LAN. So hopefully they can find a good balance there. That's kind of my 2 cents on it. Let me know what you think. RLCS 2v2s. Now, here's another interesting one, right? Following last season's addition of 1v1s to the competitive circuit, RLCS 2026 will feature 2v2s as a third competitive game mode. So there's going to be 3s, 2s, and 1s next year. Or for next season, I should say. RLCS 2v2s will have their own opens and be featured at LANs just as 1v1s were throughout RLCS 2025. It says their own opens. I don't know if that means there's going to be 3 opens, then the LAN, or if it's going to be, 1 open to qualify and then the best teams from there go to the LAN. I didn't see any details about that yet, so be kind of on the lookout for how that's going to work. But let me know what duos you want to see. Do you think we're going to see the same RLCS teams also playing 3v3? Like, do you think we're going to see Daniel Beast Mode as in this 2v2 competition? Do you think we're going to see Zen and whoever he teams with, in this competition? Are we going to see Rawas and Kalirs in this competition? Or do you think those guys are going to be solely focused on 3v3? 2v2 and 3v3 are closer game modes, whereas 1v1 kind of is its own thing, I think. Obviously, being excellent at any of those game modes is helpful, but 2v2s, it's the primary ranked mode. I think it's where most pros get the majority of their hours for the week is in ranked 2v2. So it'll be interesting to see the impact of 2s on the 3s game, and if the 3s game still remains its own thing and then those teams don't let their players, or the players don't want to play the 2v2 mode, and so we see more talent in that 2v2 region. I think 2v2 makes sense because it's the most popular player mode. I prefer 2v2 over all the other modes. I think all of them are fun, but 2v2 is the most fun, and so it makes sense that RLCS would feature that format, right? Kick off the season with the new LAN. RLCS 2026 Kickoff LAN will be a new 3-day LAN event that will serve as the conclusion of Open Number 1 and our first look at how regions stack up to each other. The tournament will pit 12 teams against each other in a close proximity setting at Blast's Copenhagen studio. Whichever team manages to come out on top will receive a guaranteed spot at Major 1, as well as an additional spot for their region at Major 1. Okay, so this I didn't even realize until I just read it. So after Open 1, so I guess, this must be invite only, because do you think they're really going to give points based on Open 1 results to see who qualifies for this? Realistically, they need to buy these plane tickets, get all the logistics sorted out. So I think it's going to be mostly all the teams we already know, or the rosters we already know, based on their 2024 performance. That's what I would expect from the Kickoff LAN, but maybe it is going to be purely based off of Open 1 performance. And, if a team that's not as known makes a deep run, maybe they could qualify for this. I don't know what the criteria is for who's going to go to the Studio LAN. It's just that it's going to be 12 teams. The winner of that winning a spot for their region is huge, because we know EU, MENA, and NA all would have decent looks at winning either a 3rd or a 5th slot, 3 for MENA, 5 for EU or NA. So this would be really big for that region. I think this is realistically, we're going to see EU show up for this type of event to try to win that 5th slot. You can kind of see it on the timeline here, right? It's like right at the beginning. So I don't know if Open 1 is really going to be used to calculate this Studio LAN, or if it's going to be invite only. I didn't see any details about that. Split number 1, November 2025 to February 2026. November 14th, 2025 will mark the beginning of the RLCS 2026 season. The first opens in each region will start on the following dates: NA and EU, November 14th, SAM and APAC, November 15th, MENA, November 21st, OCE and SSA, November 22nd. Why would they schedule NA and EU, the 2 biggest markets, on the exact same day? I don't know. People like me I would consider myself an NA fan, but I still watch a ton of EU Rocket League, obviously, right? I watch, all their events as I can. It's kind of a shame that the opens start on the same exact day. Obviously, most of the time the opens are only streamed by the teams and the orgs. And then as, we get to the actual playoffs of the open, then it's can be streamed by the, official RLCS Rocket League stream. So I don't know if this is going to be a problem. It's going to be a shame, though. I think the games may be on the same day, but obviously EU being about 6 hours ahead of most of NA, it's unlikely that these going to be overlapping where it's like we're trying to watch two matches from two different regions on the same day. But that does seem weird that they're not even staggered by one day. But let me know what you guys think. Maybe I'm overreacting to that. And November 14th, and as of today, it's September 16th. So we're less than 2 months out from, the next season, which is, to me, feels like a very short off season. But obviously esports and regular sports are a little bit different. December 5th through 7th, 2025 will be the first glimpse at how the regions stack up to each other during the brand new Kickoff LAN. We talked about that. February 2026 will feature Major 1 taking place in North America. No city announced yet. I'm sure they've got something lined up. But where do you guys think it should be? I vote for somewhere like New York City, Boston, Chicago, somewhere where it's relatively affordable for anyone from North America to get to that city, just because it's already got a ton of tourist traffic, as well as somewhere that's fully walkable city or mostly walkable city in downtown or wherever the event would take place. So my vote is going to be like Northeast Coast. Would love to see it. Honestly, New York City land would be super cool. That would be my number one vote. And that would be easier for someone like me to go to, whereas sometimes because of where I live in America, it's not as easy to get places. It would also be interesting to see RLCS in Canada to see if that draws people in, but I think realistically they're probably going to put it in the US. Split number 2, March 2026 to May 2026. May 24th through 26th, 2026 will bring Major 2 to the La Défense Arena in Paris. Paris, France, that will be a huge LAN. That is amazing. And it would be a lovely place to take a vacation. May in Paris, if you're in a position where you can take an international vacation and spend the week in Paris and then end with RLCS, that could be a great time. Paris is, I would love to go. So who knows? Road to the World Championship, June to July 2026 will contain the RLCS 1v1 and 2v2 online opens. Okay, so that does sound like 1v1 and 2v2 are only after the season is basically on the lead up to the World Championship. So it looks like we're not going to see 1v1 and 2v2 at the first two LANs based on this. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm not reading it right there. July through August 2026 is when regions will host their last online last chance qualifiers, giving 4 teams one final chance to qualify for a World Championship based on the four best performing regions across the season. So this year it was EU, NA, SAM, and MENA. Do you expect any switch ups based on the change of the imports? Probably not. I don't know. We'll see. September 2026 will be when the biggest tournament in Rocket League takes place, the RLCS 2026 World Championship. The event has been extended to 6 days and will once again feature the 16 teams with the most RLCS points, joined by the 4 teams that emerged from the LCQs. So it looks like they're not expanding it too much. So Worlds is going to have 16 teams, and the first LAN, it sounds like, is going to have 1 extra spot for whichever region wins that kickoff event. So I don't know how the bracketing is going to work when they just add 1 team, but it will be interesting to see. I'm assuming there's going to have to be some sort of play-in where, the added seed has to play the lowest ranked region, probably SSA or potentially APAC or OCE2, who knows. But it'd be interesting to see. I think generally speaking, more orgs at these events is better. These orgs want even if they know they can't compete at the top level, they want the chance of having their players go play on LAN and get exposure for the org. So generally speaking, I'd say more orgs at these events is a win for the esport, and we'll get more support for the players through that. So what do you guys think about these changes? I'd say I'm pretty optimistic about it. I think these are all good changes. I think the number one most important thing was the region lock, or however you want to call it, where a roster eligibility. I think that's going to shake things up a little bit in a way that's positive. And the reality is that'll be good. With internet speeds consistently getting better, I think it's realistic that someday we'll live in a world where ping is just even less of a factor over time. And so there will be more of a global sense, in 10 years or 20 years from now, you can imagine, like, there's certain physics on how fast the internet can be based on just the geography of the world. But I think there's certainly a case where these smaller regions will still be able to get less than 100 ping to these larger, more established regions, and can practice and show up really well at these LAN events. Anyways, I'm rambling now. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks again for all the support during this RLCS season. We're going to keep the good times rolling. There'll be some more content coming out soon, hopefully some collaborations, potentially some show matches. So please subscribe if you'd like to continue seeing this type of content, and also let me know what else you'd like me to talk about, or what other topics we should explore as a community. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and talk soon.